is completed to yes. So then now, so you can go to the command prompt cmd. So node hyphen v. So we will get, we are installed that node version. So if you want to know the node.js version, so then you can type the command node-v. Okay. So then we will get the version of node.js. Okay. So then now after this one, after this one, so we don't go to the application now. So then we can discuss complete. Yes, after installing this node.js, then whenever we are going to create a new application of react.js. So what is the folder structure we have to follow? Whenever you are going to build the strong application, whenever you are trying to work on the any project, so you have to follow the some rules. Okay. So you have to follow the some rules. So if you can follow, so then that is a good practice as a, it's a programmer's good practice. So first one is the assets folder. It is very important. So you cannot place the all the images whenever wherever you require. Okay. For suppose in one component, so I need two images. So you cannot place in that component. You cannot place in that component that whatever required the images for that component. You cannot place inside that component. You can create the folder called assets, and then you can place all the component whatever images related thing, you can place it inside of that assets folder. In that assets folder, so you can keep the, you can create a images folder, then you can place it inside of that one. Okay. Clear. As the name says, it contains the assets of our project. It consists of images and also stylings. So if you want to write a global style sheet, if you want to write a global style sheets for suppose header part, so header part you are always use one header only. Footer part you can always use one footer part only. So then you can mention as a global style sheet, then you can create that style sheet, and you can place it into the assets folder. And at the same time, so if you required any JavaScript related things, any JS libraries, so then you can place it inside of that assets folder. Okay. So inside of asset, so we are always placing images, JS and css folders. Okay. So here we can store our global style. We are centralize the project so that we can store the page based or component based styles over here. Okay. So if you want to, you cannot place all these styles in one file. Okay. So if you want to write a component based styles, so we can write it. If you want to write a component based script, so yes, we can place it into the component script file. Okay. Overall, so if we want to use images and JS and CSS files, you can place it into the assets folder. Okay. So the next one is the layout folder. Next one is the layout folder. As the name says, it contains the layouts available to the whole project, like header part, footer part. We can store that. We can store the header, footer, and sidebars related components here. Okay. So layouts related files. So you can create a layout folder. All those files you can place it into that one. Header.js, footer.js, sidebar.js. Okay. So then you can easily understand that one. You can easily understand. Okay. So the next one is the components folder. Components folder. Components are building the blocks. Components are the building the blocks. That means piece of functionality. Okay. So why we are calling the components, whenever it is required, so you can reuse it. So that piece of function, if you want somewhere, so then you can reuse for that purpose only. So we can building the those component blocks. This folder consists of collection of UI components like buttons, modals, inputs, loaders. Okay, so all those things we can place it into this components folder, so that can be used across the various files of the project. So that means various, whenever we required, so we can use those components for this application. Each component should consist of test file. each con each component should consist of test file to do the unit testing. It will widely use it to the project. Okay, so whenever you are building a component, so compulsory we have to build a test file, so to do the testing. The next one is the pages folder. Pages folder. Okay, so then the files in the pages folder indicates the route of the React application. Each file in this folder contains its root. A page can contain a subfolder. Each page has its state of usually used to call async operations. It is usually consists of various components group. Okay, so page means, so this is one page. So this is one page. Okay, so it's a home page component. In that home page we are having the header part. Okay, header, it is not layout, it is a header component. What are the things are having inside of this one? So menus is having, then brand logo is having, then this drop down is having, this search is having. This is the header component. Okay, whenever we are building the components, we can place this component in the components folder, header component in the components folder. So then this slider component we can place into the components. So then this is a about us, then after that this is a home products, so then after that testimonial, latest news, then after that footer part. Okay, so all these are all, each one as a component we can place in a components folder. So we can create a home page, and all these components, whatever components is required, those components we can call into the home page. We can call into the home page. Okay, right. The next one, that is called the page folder. So here home page is one page, and product page and innovation page, about page, each one is having one page. Then each and every page is having multiple components. Each and every page is having multiple components. Okay, so the next one, so then middleware folder. Till now we discussed all these things is project related things only. Assets folder, so we can place images or styles, the global styles related things we can place into the assets folder. So then layouts folder, so if you are having the multiple layouts we can place it into the layouts folder. So then components folder, all the components we can place it. So then combination of component into a one page, so all those components we can call and we can place it into each page. Okay, so these are things. So the next one is the middleware folder. This folder consists of middleware that allows us side effects in the application. It is used when you are using the Redux with the React. Here we keep all our custom middlewares, all our custom middleware. That means whenever you are following the Redux, that means MVC framework. So you have to write the so modal component here. So then what is that one, controller component here. Okay, modal component here and controller component is here. We can place it into the middleware folder. Okay, so the next one is the routes folder. Routes folder, so that means whenever we are clicking on about page, so all those about related components we have to place it into the one page, right? So that page, whenever you want to redirect from home to about page, so this route folder is helping. So the next one is the config folder. Next one is the config folder. This config folder consists of configuration file where we can store the environment variables. Where we can store the environment variables. What is that environment variables? What is, for suppose whenever we are the project phase is in development mode, so that is a development environment. After completion of one release, so we have to give it to the testing team. Okay, so we have to give it to the testing team, so that is called the testing environment. Okay, so after completion of testing, so it is successfully completed the testing, it is successfully completed the testing, so then we have to give it to the client. So that part, client also can test. Client cannot directly use that application. Client also can test from their end. Okay, so then it is a real time testing. Client is testing the real time, so that is called the UAT environment. UAT environment. So then finally production environment. So this way we are having the different environment. So whenever so user client is testing, so then we have to load the UAT environment. So then testing team is testing, then we have to load the testing environment. So whenever, so we cannot give the production development environment to the testing team, because of whenever we are modifying anything, so then testing team also testing environment also it may affect. So that's why develop environment is different, so testing environment is different, so then UAT environment is different. So all these related configuration we have to place it in configuration folder. Okay, so the folder consists of configuration file where we store the environment variables in config.js. We will use this file to set up multi environment configuration. Okay, so then next one, service folder. Service folder. So this folder will added if we use the Redux in our project. Inside, if there are three folders names, actions, reducers, and constant subfolders to manage the states. So whenever we are using the Redux concept, we have to use the actions, reducers, and constant subfolders. Okay, whenever we are going to the Redux concept, at that time we can able to see these things. Okay, so these actions and reducers will be called the almost all the pages. So they create actions, reducers, and constant according to the page names. Okay, so the next one is the utils folder. Next one is the utils folder. In the utils folder consists of some repeatedly used functions. Whenever you are repeatedly using that function, so then you can place it in utils folder that are commonly used in the project. It should contains only common JS function and objects like drop down options, redux conditions, data formatting. So those type of things we can place it into the utils folder. Okay, so this is the complete directory structure. Whenever we are developing the React application, we have to use this directory structure. Okay, so that is the theoretical level. Here it is the diagrammatic. Okay, inside assets we are having the styles and images. Then after that components, we can have the components. So then config.js layouts, we are having the footer, header, and main part. Middle, so then any API related things we can place it. Then pages, dashboard, or about, or some other pages we can place it here. Okay, so the next one is the React features or React features. Currently, JS is gaining the more popularity, quick popularity as the best JavaScript framework among the web developers. It is playing an essential role in the front-end ecosystem. The important features of React.js are So these are the key features. These are the key features are having in the React.js. First one is the JSX. First one is the JSX. The next one is the components. Components. Then third one is the one way of data binding. Fourth one is the virtual DOM. Fifth one is the simplicity, and this sixth one is the performance. So these two things every framework is saying: simplicity and performance, good performance. But first four features are very important. Based on that four features only, last two features are applied. Okay. So first one is the JSX. JSX stands for JavaScript XML. JavaScript XML. JSX stands for JavaScript XML. It is allows the JavaScript syntax extension. It is an XML or HTML like syntaxes used in React.js. Okay, so whenever you are open any JavaScript file, here we are having the JS files, right? So in the JS file, so here, so are we using anywhere in the direct HTML text? So we are not included. We are not included anywhere in the HTML tags directly without giving the quotations or without giving the string concatenation. We are not giving any HTML tags here, but JSX allows those HTML tags directly we can use into the React.js file. So that means React.js also a .js extension. So then we can directly use the HTML in the JS file. Okay. So JSX stands for JavaScript XML. It is a JavaScript syntax extension. It is an XML or HTML like syntaxes used by React.js. This syntax is proceeded into the JavaScript calls React framework. Okay, so it extends the ES6 after releasing to in 2014. ES6 is released. Okay, after completion of two classes, so then we can discuss about that the ES6. So ES6 is having the more advanced features. So then if you can discuss those ES6 features, then you can completely understand the React.js. Okay, so it extends the ES6 so that HTML like text can coexist with the JavaScript React code. It is not necessary to use the JSX, but it is recommended to use the JSX concept in the React.js. It is very helpful. Okay, so the next one is the component. React.js, another biggest key feature is component. React.js is all about the components only. Everything is an component. React.js application is made up with the multiple component, and each component has its having own logic. Every component is having their own logic. Okay, without reason, without logic, so uh, we don't need to build the components. These components can be reusable with help you to maintain the code when working on the larger scale of project. Okay, so these components are very helpful when we build a bigger project, so we can reuse these components. Okay, so another biggest advantage is one way of data binding. One way of data binding. This is a very biggest advantages in AngularJS. This is the biggest advantage compared to the AngularJS. So in the Angular, it follows the two way of binding, but in React.js, so it follows the one way of data binding. React.js is designed in such a manner that follows the unidirectional data flow or one way of data binding. The benefits of that, the benefits of that one way of data binding give you the better control through the application. Okay, if the data flow is another direction, then requires the additional features. It is because the components are supposed to be immutable, that data within them, it cannot be changed. Flux is the pattern that helps to keep the data unidirectional. Okay, see this one. So the Angular JS follows the multi uh, multi data binding. Okay, so that means, so whenever we are doing any operations, finally it is executing one by one only, one by one only. Here what will happen, we are, so when we compare with the real time, so for suppose something is happening, some movie tickets is happening, so when we go into the one line, when we go into the one way of line, so then we can easily get, and it is quickly completed. So if you can go the multiple lines, so he can give only one ticket to the one person and at a time, right? So if we can put the multiple line, so then he is confusing. So who comes first, he or other? Who comes first? So he can think 1 second at that time. So then he can give the ticket, right? So that way of confusion is happening when we follow the multi way of data binding. Okay, when we when we follow the multi way of data binding, so that type of confusion is happening, and at that time, so the application performance is bit decreased. That means, so it is increasing the loading time and performance is decreased. If we can follow the one way of data binding, so then our application performance is better than multi way of data binding. Okay, it is a biggest feature. That's why React.js is more popular compared to the Angular. Okay, clear? So this is the today's class. Remaining things we can discuss tomorrow. We are having other things. So then, so from tomorrow onwards, we can start a small application. Okay. So any doubts?